What's up my fellow distant cousins, it's Ari. Today I'm going to be doing my third anti-haul. I love filming these videos, so I'm glad that there are more products coming out where I can point at them and point out their obvious deficiencies. It's very fun. As always with these videos, it's always from a place of honesty, love, or at least frustration. Like, I never intend to offend anyone, I never intend to make anyone angry. I just want to tell you why perhaps you might not need these products, because let's face it, there are a lot of eyeshadow palettes, there are a lot of makeup products, and you don't need all of them. So it's good to be selective, otherwise you would literally have zero money. You would be me. As per usual, this format is credited to Amber's Beauty Chair and Kimberly Clark. In the state of the beauty community right now, we need Kimberly Clark more than ever. But enough talk, let's get on to the first product. So we're starting off with probably the big staple product of this anti-haul, one of the eyeshadow palettes that pretty much everyone's been talking about. You literally can't miss it. You go around a corner and whoop, there it is. It's on tons of channels, everyone has an opinion on it, and obviously so do I. Obviously that palette is the Morphe and Jarls Chames palette. So as far as this palette goes, this palette is fine. It's not revolutionary, it's not bad, it's not horrible, it's just fine. That's it. I feel like this as a palette is a good palette, and for someone who doesn't have a lot of colourful makeup, this is a good addition. My problem with this release isn't so much the product itself, but the marketing. I think this product is marketed in all the wrong ways. This palette is not this kind of revolutionary palette that's like changing makeup history. I'm pretty sure I heard at one point, it's like, oh, it's one of the biggest makeup launches of all time.
Delusion. Convince yourself.
You could see that as playful hyperbole, but it just borders on delusion. This is a pretty standard large rainbow palette. It's in the same format as the 39A. It's nothing special. It's just a rainbow palette. There are lots of places you can get rainbow palettes. There's lots of places you've been able to get rainbow palettes. You can get them for really cheap. You can get them for really expensive prices. That's just how it is. This palette is fine, but there isn't really anything that makes it particularly special. Sure, if you want to support James Charles, then fair enough. This is the palette that you could buy to do that, but I'm not in that position, so I don't see that from that perspective. The other big problem I have with this stems from the kind of, I was going to say subtle policing, but it's not subtle whatsoever. It's very prominent kind of policing of the right way to use this palette. I've noticed on some reviews, particularly I've seen on Reddit, where people have pointed out that James Charles has been going on reviews and being like, well actually, which is never a great start in a sentence, but well actually you have to use it with like a sticky base or with like certain brush motions and with certain, I don't know, the blood of a virgin or whatever. Like, it's just, my problem with that, a really crucial makeup rule in my eyes. Here's the thing. If an eyeshadow palette needs that many instructions, or many instructions at all, there's a problem. I get that some eyeshadow formulas need special ways of doing things, like with certain special glitter formulas or things like that, but this really isn't that type of case. This is just a standard rainbow eyeshadow palette. There are many standard rainbow eyeshadow palettes that don't need a lot of instructions. There are a lot of eyeshadow palettes out there that you just go into a palette and you use it. There's no need to be told like, oh, you have to use these certain motions and you have to use this type of base and you have to like brush it with the feathers of a dove or whatever. It's just ridiculous. To paraphrase a now iconic Lady Gaga quote, there could be 100 eyeshadow palettes in the room. 99 of them don't need instructions. So why would you go for the one that has the most complicated instructions just to get a good look? Because you can go to any other eyeshadow palette and it works perfectly. I've seen that with all sorts of palettes. I've seen that with Revolution palettes, Urban Decay palettes, MAC palettes, Dose of Colours palettes, Line Crime palettes. None of them need this kind of PR babble. It's just ridiculous. If you need that many instructions, the eyeshadow might not be that good. That might just be the case. If Morphe and James Charles, both of them, had a different idea on how to market this palette, I'd probably see it in a lot better of a light, but just the hype of it is just, it's making it out to be something that it just isn't. If you want this palette specifically, and you like the formation of the colours, and you want to support James Charles, then great, get it. But at the end of the day, it is a rainbow palette, and you can get rainbow palettes from a lot of different places. Drugstore, high-end, indie brands, it's just, that's just the name of the game. Why make such a big deal out of doing the bare minimum? It's not that special. So I don't think that the Too Faced Pretty Rich collection has had the best reception so far. I especially was not a fan of that little tweet that Uncle Jared sent out, that Rich Lives Matter cake. That was very tone deaf. Making light out of a serious political situation that just didn't need to be done. I want to talk about one specific product from the Pretty Rich collection, and that is the return of the one product everyone wanted to see back, the Too Faced Glow Job Mask. First of all, I, like many people, don't really feel this clawing at the walls need to get a glitter mask. It just isn't something I feel like I need in my collection. I wouldn't use it for purposes other than showing off on Instagram, so it's not really my thing. But I don't need to complain too much about this product because everyone else did when the first Glow Job mask came out. That was when it was pink. Everyone was saying the marketing is really juvenile and the name is just kind of gross considering the consistency of the product and all of that. People have said that, but now they've brought this product back, they made it white now. Here's the thing, I'm pretty sure that Jared and the Too Faced office thought it was hilarious, but I don't really have that type of humour. The fact that they decided, what can make this mask sell better? What can get some better marketing out of this mask? Let's make it look more like jizz. God. This is absolutely just really childish, but I can't help but laugh at it. I don't think this product is necessarily harmless, and I don't think that it's the kind of thing that should be discussed with so much seriousness, because a Glow Job glitter mask just makes me laugh, honestly. But it's that kind of thing, like, I wouldn't just buy this because I got a couple of chuckles out of it. It's just a glitter mask. Glitter masks aren't really that useful in the first place. They're not in the highest echelon of skincare. It's kind of funny though, for about like 5 seconds, and then you realise that there are gonna be people having to ask for this product in a physical store, and it's gonna be pretty awkward. So, well done Too Faced for making it even more awkward. I had to bring up this next palette. I feel like it really landed, and a lot of people had similar thoughts about it, and that is the Tarte Tarteist Pro Remix palette. So we got some hints that Tarte was working on something a little bit more colourful after the fallout from the April Fool's palette that they probably should have brought out, because then everyone started doing dupes of it and now everyone's all about the green eyeshadow. So they really missed the bus on that one, but they decided to make a more colourful palette, which I commend, but when you look at this palette, it's the bare minimum of colourful eyeshadow palettes. You have bright colours, but all of the colours are shimmers, of course, because who heard of a colourful matte? There are a couple of mattes in this palette, and they're all brown, because that's just classic Tarte, making all of the mattes a vague brown shade, or a taupe shade, or a cream shade, or a beige shade, or a nude shade, or I can't think of any other words, and also my voice is breaking. So basically, I feel like the main consensus around this palette is that it's good for Tarte. And that's exactly what I think. This is a good palette compared to the rest of Tarte's collection, but if you put this in any other makeup line, it's underwhelming. This is my opinion. We should not be praising a fish for swimming. We should not be praising an eyeshadow brand for doing the bare minimum in terms of this kind of stuff. It's just, is this palette going to be anything special, or is it just special because it's very different to what Tarte already does? No one's going to be talking about this like it's an amazing palette on its own, because it's always going to have that byline. This is like the most interesting thing Tarte's released, but is it even that interesting in the first place compared to any of the palettes that you're looking at on Trendmood or anything in your collection? There's a part of me that thinks that Tarte should just not try with colourful eyeshadows, because I don't think it's not their wheelhouse. They're not going to do anything that's exciting in that field. I feel like the energy they're putting into making this palette compelling and interesting should really be put into expanding the shade ranges of that Shape Tape foundation, because people would appreciate that a lot more. In my last anti-haul, I talked about a new black liquid eyeliner from Kat Von I'll Take Anti-Semitic Edgelord for 600 Alex D. That was her 6th liquid eyeliner, and now she is putting her first 5 liquid eyeliners in a vault. Who thought this was a good idea? It's bad enough that she has so many black liquid eyeliners to the point where the necessity for all of them is pretty much obliterated. The fact that she's putting all of these into a vault and expecting people to like it? Really? First of all, liquid eyeliners are technically something where you use one and you're happy with it, and then you are usually used to one type, whether that's a brush tip, a felt tip, spatula, I don't know. You don't need 5 different ones. That's a waste of eyeliner. It just baffles me the fact that this was even needed to be released. Now, I really hate the phrase "who asked for this," but I'm gonna have to wheel that one out because there can't be a person on this planet who thought that this was a good idea. It's preposterous. I may as well move on now to the e.l.f. jelly highlighters because I have nothing else to say about this eyeliner vault. So, e.l.f. jelly highlighters. I feel like the jelly highlighter as a concept is really just kind of there to be something new and exciting in the makeup community. I got one of the Revolution jelly highlighters because I wanted to see how it was and if it actually did anything. For example, I'm wearing a powder highlighter today, which I can't see because the lighting in this room is terrible, but compared to the powder highlighters that I usually use, the jelly highlighter kind of does half of what those do. It doesn't really go anywhere over that level in terms of actually performing. It's fun to use and it's fun to like put your hand in the thing and it's jelly, but other than that, it doesn't really do any exciting thing. It's kind of just something fun. It isn't going to improve anyone's highlighting game at this point. It's just a nice, fun thing to play with. If you want to get it as a nice, fun thing to play with, then that's great, but that's really it for me. Though I will say, I'm glad that the people who are releasing jelly highlighters are people like e.l.f. and people like Revolution, because at least those are cheap. At least those you can get them and you can have a play with them, and that's quite fun instead of spending so much on a Fasali jelly highlighter, which is just like money down the drain. I've even swatched the Fasali jelly highlighter and it looks nice, but I'm not expecting it to do anything special on my face. Jelly highlighters aren't the thing. They really aren't. I feel like a lot of people have talked about the Pure and the Grinch palette. People have talked about this because the packaging is all sorts of complicated trash and it's just too much. A lot of people have talked about that, and I absolutely agree with that, but I feel like a lot of people have talked about that already, so there's not much point in me retracing over old ground. I do think the packaging is really excessive. Because screw being environmentally friendly, let's just shove as much tat on this as possible. My real problem with this product though is that the eyeshadow palette, while it's organised in a completely impractical way, it comes with a colour changing lipstick. I hate colour changing lipsticks because it's like, oh, it's a green lipstick that changes into a pink lipstick. And for me, if I see a green bullet lipstick, I would like it to stay green because I actually really like green bullet lipsticks and green lipsticks overall. I don't want it to change to pink because where's the fun in that? You just get a pink lipstick. And also, I don't really look that good in pink lipstick, so it's not ideal. So I'm not really a fan of the colour-changing lipstick in this type of set, or the Lipstick Queen colour-changing lipstick. Again, it's just something to play with, rather than to practically use when doing makeup, or actually getting good use out of. This is something you'll play with for 5 seconds, and then you'll toss it to the side when it stops being interesting. And also, a lot of people have brought up the fact that having a Grinch makeup collection like this is pretty antithetical to the entire message of the Grinch, which I just think is a very smart point to bring up. I'm not smart enough to bring up points like that, but I think that is 100% true, so I won't be buying this palette. Someone also brought up that this palette would probably work better in the same palette layout as the Trolls palette and the My Little Pony palette, which I also agree with. I think that that format is a lot nicer because it's a lot more compact. You just get what you need, cutting out all the BS, just getting the product that you want. And I think that there's no need to dress it up in so much that it just becomes just so convoluted, and there's no point to that. I know that makeup brands like to try and create spectacle, but it isn't necessary. This isn't creating spectacle, this is just creating ambivalence. No one's really excited for this because it's just too much. It's just too much packaging, too much red tape. I do want to talk about the Dose of Colours Mickey Mouse collection. Now, I get that it's the anniversary of Mickey Mouse and all of these different brands are going to be bringing out Mickey Mouse products. I see that completely. But my problem with the Dose of Colours collection is that it feels like a regular Dose of Colours collection with the Mickey Mouse head stamped on it. The signature colours of Mickey Mouse are red and yellow, yet this entire collection is nude. Did not even try and hit any of the points of the brief. This is an autopilot release at its finest. As much as I'm not really interested in this other release that I'm going to talk about, the Besame collection did better, I think. Besame did a better job at representing the Mickey Mouse aesthetic. I mean, at least they had a red lipstick. They got one of the main factors. Also, I prefer the packaging of the Besame release, but I won't be able to get the Besame stuff because it's very inaccessible in the UK. I would have liked to see some Besame product, like that Peter Pan palette, the Mermaid palette, that is nice. As for the Dose of Colours one, I think it's just there. Next, please. And then the final product I'm going to talk about, I'm only going to talk about this briefly, but it's the Jeffree Star Cosmetics Holiday Collection. There are a lot of reasons why I don't want to buy into this collection. Obviously, I'm not supporting Jeffree Star on my channel anyway, so it doesn't really make that much of a difference, but this collection in particular really gets me annoyed. I'm not going to get too much into detail because I'd like to spare my mental health for a minute, but I really don't like the lipstick names. I think they're incredibly immature, and that's all I'm going to say about that. I will say, if any other brand was making that Alien palette, I'd probably be buying it because I actually really like the colour scheme. It's a controversial opinion. It's a hot take. Look at me being all edgy. But I actually really like the colour scheme of this palette. I just don't want to support Jeffree Star because I'm sick of hearing about Jeffree Star everywhere. Honestly, it's like, God, can't you just grow up? There's all of the products I have to talk about today, but I hope you did enjoy this anti-haul. If you want to see more anti-hauls, please let me know because I'd love to do more anti-hauls because, again, so much fun to film. I love filming them. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you want to see more of me, then subscribe to my channel below. I need to get it in the right frame. Below! As always, I am aryelynet on Twitter and aryelynet on Instagram, so check me out there if you want to see more of me. And finally, thank you for spending time with me today, and I love you for watching. Bye!